In just 3 seasons, one man with a helmet changed the entire Star Wars universe forever. We're talking about a show that brought back Luke Skywalker, made Baby Yoda a household name, and somehow made us care about Boba Fett again. This isn't just a story about a bounty hunter and a green kid, but rather how the galaxy's greatest warriors reclaimed their lost home, and why everything that happens next in Star Wars will never be the same. What I'm about to share will make you understand why this moment broke the internet. But first, let's go back to where it all started. 5 years after the Empire fell, when most people thought the galaxy was finally at peace, they were wrong. Season 1, our story begins with a nameless Mandalorian bounty hunter who follows one simple rule: bring them in warm or bring them in cold. He's efficient, deadly, and completely alone. Just another gun for hire in a galaxy trying to rebuild itself after the Empire's collapse. Then comes a job that changes everything. An enigmatic client with obvious Imperial connections offers him a fortune in sacred Beskar steel to capture a 50-year-old target. The catch is that nobody tells him what this target actually is. What he finds in that remote compound isn't a criminal or a fugitive. It's a child, a green, wide-eyed infant who belongs to the same mysterious species as the legendary Jedi Master Yoda. When the bounty droid IG-11 tries to kill the child per standard protocol, something breaks inside our Mandalorian. He destroys the droid and takes the child alive. This decision splits his world in half. He could have walked away rich and unburdened. Instead, he chose compassion over credits. But here's what makes this moment so powerful. The child saves him right back. When a massive mudhorn has the Mandalorian beaten and ready to die, the infant uses the Force to lift the creature into the air, giving our hero the opening he needs to survive. That's when he realizes this isn't just any child. This is something the Empire desperately wants, and they're willing to kill for it. The Mandalorian delivers the child to his Imperial client, collects his payment, and tries to move on. But guilt eats at him. When he sees other Mandalorians, his own people, reduced to hiding in sewers and scraping by on scraps, he makes another choice that defines who he really is. He goes back for the child. The rescue sequence that follows shows us everything we need to know about Mandalorian honor. When bounty hunters and Imperial remnants surround him, demanding he hand over the child, other Mandalorians emerge from their underground covert. They sacrifice their safety and secrecy to help him escape. The tribe protects its own, even when that protection costs them everything. Here's what I want you to think about. What would you sacrifice for someone who couldn't protect themselves? Because what happens next shows us that sometimes the smallest acts of defiance can topple empires. By the season's end, the Mandalorian and the child are fugitives together. He's no longer a faceless bounty hunter following orders. He's become something the galaxy desperately needs, a protector willing to stand against impossible odds. But their biggest challenges are just beginning. Season 2. Season 2 transforms our intimate story of two outcasts into an epic quest that brings together the greatest heroes and villains in Star Wars history. The Mandalorian now has a mission that goes beyond survival. Return the child to his own kind, the Jedi. This quest leads him across the galaxy, collecting allies and enemies in equal measure. He reunites with Cara Dune, teams up with the legendary Boba Fett, and even crosses paths with Ahsoka Tano, a former Jedi who reveals the child's true name, Grogu. But the most shocking discovery comes when the Mandalorian meets other Mandalorians who remove their helmets freely. Bo-Katan Kryze and her warriors show him that his strict religious sect, the Children of the Watch, represents just one interpretation of Mandalorian culture. It's a revelation that shakes his entire worldview. The stakes escalate when we learn what the Empire really wanted with Grogu. They weren't just after one Force-sensitive child. They were trying to extract his blood to create an army of Force-sensitive clones. The child's midi-chlorian count is off the charts, making him the perfect donor for creating artificial Force users under Imperial control. Enter Moff Gideon, the Imperial officer who orchestrated the Great Purge of Mandalore and now wields the Darksaber, the ancient weapon that symbolizes Mandalorian leadership. Gideon represents everything our heroes are fighting against: the systematic destruction of cultures, the weaponization of the Force, and the Empire's refusal to stay dead. The season builds to an incredible finale where the Mandalorian, Bo-Katan, Cara Dune, Boba Fett, and Fennec Shand assault Gideon's cruiser. They fight through hordes of stormtroopers and nearly indestructible dark troopers to rescue Grogu. But when victory seems impossible, when the dark troopers are about to break through their last defenses, a single X-Wing arrives. A hooded figure emerges, ignites a green lightsaber, and cuts through the dark troopers like they're training dummies. When he lowers his hood, we see a face that made grown adults cry around the world. Luke Skywalker in his prime, offering to train Grogu in the ways of the Force. The goodbye scene between the Mandalorian and Grogu breaks our hearts because we know it's necessary. For the first time, the Mandalorian removes his helmet to show Grogu his face. It's a moment of pure love and sacrifice that redefines what family means in the Star Wars universe. Do you think Luke was the right choice to train Grogu, knowing how Luke's other students turned out? Please let me know in the comments, because Season 3 is about to show us that some bonds can't be broken, even by Jedi training. Season 2 ends with hope and heartbreak in equal measure. The child is safe with Luke, but our Mandalorian is alone again. Meanwhile, Boba Fett claims Jabba's throne on Tatooine, setting up stories that will ripple across the galaxy. Season 3. The third season opens with a devastating revelation. The Mandalorian has been cast out from his own people. By removing his helmet in front of others, he broke sacred laws that have guided his sect for generations. He's no longer considered a true Mandalorian unless he bathes in the living waters beneath the mines of Mandalore. There's just one problem. Everyone believes Mandalore was completely destroyed during the Great Purge. The planet is supposedly poisoned, lifeless, and uninhabitable. But the Mandalorian needs redemption, and Bo-Katan needs purpose after losing the Darksaber to him in their previous encounter. Together, they journey to the ruins of Mandalore and discover something incredible. The planet isn't dead. Life has returned to the underground caverns, and the living waters still flow beneath the surface. When the Mandalorian sinks too deep during his redemption ritual, Bo-Katan dives in to save him and encounters something that changes everything. A living mythosaur, the legendary creature that Mandalorians once rode into battle. This discovery ignites hope that Mandalore can be reclaimed, but it also attracts the attention of Imperial remnants who have been using the planet as a secret base. Moff Gideon didn't die and his TIE fighter crash survived and has been conducting horrific experiments, creating Force-sensitive clones of himself using Grogu's blood. The revelation that Grogu has returned to the Mandalorian side brings both joy and terror. Luke determined that Grogu chose attachment over Jedi training, but this reunion puts the child back in Imperial crosshairs. Gideon's new plan is even more terrifying than before. Complete the Great Purge by eliminating every remaining Mandalorian while perfecting his army of Force-sensitive clones. What follows is the largest Mandalorian gathering in decades. Bo-Katan unites the scattered clans, including her own former followers and the religious sect that once rejected her. Old rivalries are set aside as they prepare for what might be their final battle. The assault on Gideon's base becomes a war for the soul of Mandalorian culture. Bo-Katan wields the Darksaber with devastating effectiveness, but the weapon is ultimately destroyed in her final confrontation with Gideon. In that moment, something profound happens. The Mandalorians realize they don't need an ancient weapon to define their identity. Their strength comes from their unity, their shared values, and their willingness to fight for each other. Gideon's death in the collapsing base marks the end of an era. The last major Imperial threat to Mandalore is eliminated, and the Great Forge, the heart of Mandalorian civilization, burns bright once again. The scattered tribes have come home. The season ends with a transformation that completes our hero's journey. The Mandalorian formally adopts Grogu, giving the child a family name and a place in Mandalorian society. They're no longer fugitives or outcasts, they're the foundation of a new era. What does it mean that a story about reclaiming home required losing the very symbol that defined leadership? Because I think the answer reveals something profound about what true strength really looks like. The Mandalorian settles into a peaceful life on Navarro, taking honest work and raising his adopted son. But this isn't really an ending, it's a new beginning. The galaxy now knows that Mandalore has returned, that the Jedi have successors, and that some bonds are stronger than any empire. The Mandalorian proved that Star Wars works best when it focuses on characters we care about facing impossible choices. It showed us that family isn't about blood, but about who you choose to protect. And it demonstrated that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a lightsaber or a super weapon, but the willingness to do what's right even when it costs you everything. This is the way. And now you know why everything that comes next in Star Wars will be built on the foundation that Djarin and Grogu created together. The galaxy will never be the same, and honestly, that's exactly how it should be. If you loved our breakdown of the 3 seasons, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more similar content.